Well, thank you very much, Katie. I'm happy to discuss with you all the future of human resources in tourism. So we have a lot of things to talk about. As you all probably heard, our Federal Minister of Economy and Environment this morning, Robert Habeck, also addressed the scarcity of employees that we are facing, not only in tourism, but in many other sectors in the German economy as well. For us in tourism, the COVID pandemic hit the industry hard in terms of turnover, but also in terms of employment, in terms of the employment situation that we are facing. We already had problems in Germany facing shortage of skilled labor in the tourism sector before the pandemic, but after the pandemic, or now in the pandemic, we are, of course, facing an even more severe situation. In the whole world, we have lost 60 million jobs in the tourism sector between 2019 and 2020. And we have a lot to talk about. What are we doing about the shortage of skilled labor, and how is becoming digital a relevant trend also in the industry of tourism HR? And which strategies are there around the globe to manage the current situation? Let's welcome our guest. I'm looking forward to talking to Leah from G Adventures, joining us from Toronto today. She is Director of Global Learning and Engagement for G Adventure, and she leads a team across the areas of learning, engagement, leadership development, and talent management for G Adventure. Hi, Leah. Rida is also joining us today. She is Head of Talent Acquisition at Personio. She is joining us from Dublin today, so we have a very international round today. Leah is, or for those of you who do not know Personio yet, Personio is a software that digitizes and simplifies HR processes. So what they do is they help us being more efficient in the recruiting process, to then have more time for things like talent management, talent development, and also employer branding, of course. Last but not least, we have Mario Maxeiner. Mario is joining us from Frankfurt today, and he is Managing Director within other countries, also for Northern Europe, at Intercontinental Hotels, so the IHG group, and they have almost 6,000 hotels and resorts in more than 100 countries. And I am pretty sure that finding the right employee for IHG is also a big topic. So I would like to start asking you, Mario, how could you describe the current situation with finding employees right now for IHG?
Thanks, Sophia. And yeah, thanks for having the chance to be on the panel today. You know, as you did the introduction, I mean, the hotel industry is most probably one of the industries that was hit the hardest by the pandemic. From early days on, we have seen travel going down from 100 to 0 within a week. We had to respond to that across the globe by shutting down hotels, you know, by actually reducing labor and workforce, because not every country has support mechanisms in place, like we find it in Europe, for example, where people can get on a scheme, on a government support. So that led to the effect that many of our employees had different things they looked at, and that they left the industry. You know, they started working for other booming industry that came up during that time, whether that's, you know, transportation, groceries. I mean, every other industry that was attractive and was searching talent. So that has a long-lasting effort on us, because still till today, we cannot keep up with the demand that we're seeing in our hotels. We don't find the right level of labor that we need to drive the hotels and to manage the service that we find. And this is a problem, a unique problem, or a lateral problem across the whole globe. That's not a particular German problem. So what we see now is that we are really fighting for qualified labor with other industries. But we stay very, let's say, positive and optimistic about it, because think about the industry that we're representing. It kind of 1 out of 10 people around the globe work in our industry. So it's a huge contributor as well to the GDP of the countries and everything. And our industry is attractive, and we need to come back to spread that positive news about the opportunities you have there. Working with people, the enormous career paths that you have, the chance to see the world. And I'm speaking out of experience. I had the pleasure and luxury of living in 3 different continents and having had the chance to experience that firsthand. And I think we need to create that desire and appetite again in our industry, the camaraderie that have you around the staffing and the endless opportunities. So let's say we're in a difficult situation, but I think the storytelling that we can do is attracting the people again for that beautiful sector that we're all representing.
All right. Yeah, I can totally agree with that. I am from my heart working in tourism, so I think we have a lot that speaks for us, a lot of advantages working in our industry. But we are facing problems with people wanting to attract for our industry. So I'd like to ask you, Rida, how do you see the recruiting processes right now? Have they changed any since COVID, but also due to skilled labor or missing of skilled labor sources?
Absolutely. So I think recruiting in general, talent attraction, when you talk about pure talent attraction strategies, have changed significantly. And it's across industries, not only in the travel industry that we see a problem. Now, specifically with the difficulties of COVID, the end of the pandemic, and just in terms of the demand that we see in terms of shift of technology and skill sets that we need. There is high demand in terms of what we need, but also there's so much demand in terms of industries that are looking for a certain set of professionals. And I think there was a time when you would have individuals who would stay in one organization for a period of lifetime, right? And now you see this new generation who's jumping from one organization to the other because they want to have more, not just in terms of career trajectory, but also in terms of what they consider as personal growth for them. And RTA strategies now have seen a major trend in not only sitting back and waiting for applications to come in, but actually hunting out profiles or personas that would fit the value segmentation of your company. And I think that's the target that you really look for. No longer do we think of what is the essential criteria versus the desirable criteria ready for a role, but more so what kind of talent do we need to bring in that we can churn, use their skill sets, their creativity, and formate the roles such that would help you grow. And I think, now we all know that the majority of the candidates are your passive candidates that you look for. So you need to go out, be ruthless when it comes to employer branding, be ruthless when it comes to sourcing. But I think at the end, you need to be also very truthful and honest as to what your organization is all about. And it's all about not just image setting, but being true about really what your image is, and that you relate more to candidates. And I think we need to do an extra mile in understanding what the talent is about, what is their needs and what is their requirement. And it changes from different segments, it changes from different markets, it changes from different cultures and different sects of organizations that they have experience in. And you really need to tailor make those strategies for those units. You can't just have one standard, A to C direction for every candidate. It has to be personalized. It has to be tailored for their need. So that, I think, is a big challenge and a lot of investment that needs to go into TA in that perspective.
Okay, just one more question in that direction. You mentioned the word personas. Does that mean in the future we won't be posting or listing specific job titles, but rather look for what is the profile of the person that is applying and where might he fit? Is that also, or he or she fit? Is that also something that is implicated by that?
In a way, yes. I think it's more about setting what kind of capabilities you're looking for in an organization. Because once you come in, it shouldn't be like to like, because roles evolve, technologies evolve, and and what you want is in an organization, I think one biggest success of an organization is to really promote internal mobility. And if you want to promote internal mobility, it does not just mean going upwards, it can also mean lateral moves, which means you want to get in personas or talent that match a particular cultural value set or a skill set that could go with across your organization. So I don't think we can think of advertising roles without a role title, no, but I think going more and looking into your job description of what it actually reads is what I'm talking about. Because I think titles is important at the same time, because you really get to categorize, you get to do data and reporting around it. And there's a lot of, so I think title is like secondary. It's about the message that you put into the job description that would have a more value add, if that makes sense.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. Leah, you are working for G Adventures and you are very international with your company. Do you see differences in international recruiting, or do you have any best practices for us of successful strategies, how to work in specific markets?
Absolutely. So from our international perspective, because of the pandemic and because of the way different restrictions have been put in place at different times, it's presented a real challenge, because things aren't opening up all at the same time. We don't face the same recruitment challenges when we begin operating in South America, for instance, as we do when we start operating in Asia. So really, it's a timing thing from the international perspective. And it's also dependent on the role and what's happening in the local market. So when we talk about different recruitment tactics, oftentimes we're relying on local recruitment agencies to help support that activity, because they're the ones with the most up-to-date knowledge of what's going on within that market. That can't be always managed from a centralized perspective, and we really want to know and be in touch with what's happening on the ground. It also plays into a factor if individuals, depending on the role, are considering that role as a career or as sort of a stopgap. And we know that over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of people move on from the tourism industry. A lot of our frontline staff have had to look for other opportunities outside of tourism because the income and opportunity just hasn't been there. And so what we used to do was really be able to refer or depend on our employer brand, referral and word of mouth. And what we're realizing is that we don't have that same talent pipeline coming to us that we traditionally would have. And so we have to be creative. Similar to what Rida was saying, and stay in touch with our community and reach back out to those individuals. Maybe they have moved on, but they know people who would fit that persona of somebody who would really fit well within our organization. And everything that we do through G Adventures is to add to our community. So when we are recruiting, we're looking, regardless of the destination, regardless of the region that we're operating in, to bring somebody in who's going to add to that community. So we're really sort of strong on our core values and who we are as an organization, and culture is at the core of what we do. And we want to make sure that we're recruiting the right people into that space, because we know that that's what's going to enable us to retain them. And then another thing that just came to my mind related to recruitment and what's changed so much over this time is just that digital first experience. So if you're not an on the ground sort of tour delivery person for us or in local operations, but you're more in the office position or a staff role that's supporting that stuff, it's opening all sorts of new opportunities for us, because now that we're in this digital hybrid space, that we can be looking to recruit on a global scale for certain roles. So our head office is located in Toronto, Canada. Traditionally, we would have hired our technology staff to that office, but now we can look to be hiring people all over the world to support some of those functions. So that opens all sorts of new opportunities for us as we've learned over these past couple of years to work differently. So I think that as a trend in recruitment definitely is something we're seeing play out in real time and has been a real advantage for us.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's at least something good that we got with the pandemic, that people got used to being or working remotely. So that makes it a lot easier, and you just have a lot more people that you can actually attract for your company. That's true. Mario, how do you see the situation at your hotel group? Do you see, or what tactics do you use to recruit people, and are there any specialties for local recruitment?
No, It was quite interesting to listen to Leah and Rida, because that reflects a lot of it, the change and the evolution every employer is going through at the moment. We are historically a very old-fashioned industry. For us, recruitment was advertising on the websites or on partner websites. It's going to hotel schools, to other schools, presenting the career pathways, some of the testimonials that people made, and then of course, we're hiring agencies as well that for specific jobs that we use to find the right match for our needs. But I think this is something we need to change, and I think another big thing is the change that the industry is going through. And then I want to touch a little bit really on what Rida and Leah said. Historically, we were very, very position and role driven. There's the waiter in the restaurant, the waiter in the bar, there's the front office clerk, those kind of things. But these things are changing over time now. So that means we're getting more into a flexible environment where a single person can do multiple things. Multitasking. That has been something that we haven't had in the past, where we hired a person for a specific thing. No, now we're hiring a person that can do multiple different things. That is expanding as well the opportunities for that candidate, because he or she can then span across different functions in the hotel. I think that's definitely something that is a big change that we're seeing today already. That persona thing that you talked about, we do not have that very static things in the future anymore, I'm quite sure. The other thing, and Leah talked about it, is the culture, the employer branding. I really like that part, because people are looking for culture. People are looking for branding, for an organization that they feel that they are connecting to. And don't forget, the hotel industry is a team players industry, because this is about teams getting it done, getting the work done, and making guests and happy. So I think everybody that is looking for that finds him or herself in the culture, is something that is super strong, and that's definitely something we can build on. Sustainability comes more and more out there. Importantly, people are looking for employers that have an agenda there, that are working on sustainability, that have a real mission statement and a proposition on what they are doing, and that can cater as well into the daily work. And I think what we are trying to do is we're trying to change the workplace. We're trying to offer flexible solutions, because in the past, very static. You get a salary, you get a bonus, you get vacation, and you get an employee rate. I mean, that was pretty much the value proposition of the hotel companies, plus a career pathway. I think now it's different. Now it's about, do you want to work from home? Do you want to work from home in a hybrid version? How many hours do you want to work? It's about, diversity and inclusion that comes here, development programs that we launched. So there's a whole toolbox of things that we put out there that will show the people that we're an attractive workplace, and that there's endless opportunities for someone that is willing to do that. So I think, to your question, there's a huge evolution going on in our very old-fashioned traditional industry.
All right. Yeah, it seems like we have to become more flexible. That's one point, definitely. And obviously more individual as well, because the persons and the people we want to recruit and want to win for our company, they seem to have different approaches why they would decide to work for a company. So Rida, can you tell us, do you see differences about or addressing different target groups? Like, for example, do you see in recruiting differences if you approach the Generation Y, for example?
Yeah, actually, and Marius, I totally feel you. I can understand where you're coming from. It's interesting, when you look at the tourism industry, your biggest market of customers is actually your millennials, right? The ones who actually they're the travelers, they're the ones who want to see the world and yet also have a great life. And I think at the same time, you have that professional gap where you also need employees to stay, but also individuals who, because attrition is quite high within the tourism industry as well. So there's a lot that you can do with creating a great employer brand and attracting those individuals, but then there's so much more that you would need to do to actually retain them. And this is where the dynamic of recruiting for this, let's say, this new generation that we see as well. It's so interesting, but it all comes back to the personas as well and how the world is evolving. These are individuals who do not like to just stick in a 9-to-5 jobs. They value life so much more. They have so many different priorities that we would see quite differently. They don't want to come into a box and work 24/7 and then leave, right? They will have aspirations, goals, and their career changes, and it's all about their personal growth without generalizing them, obviously. It's just what we see is they're interesting individuals. They've got this creativity that is so unique, and it makes it very difficult for us to put in standardized assessment, I would say, and also attract them in a very standardized club way, which is why I keep talking about you need to tailor it based on your candidate experience or based on every candidate. It cannot be a one shop for it all. And I think attracting them and retaining them is also in terms of personal development, but also the kind of packages you give them. I think there's a lot of investment that would also need to be done where we talk about the package. And I'm not just saying compensation or salary. We're talking about pieces around learning and development, pieces around utilizing your tourism industry, thinking about very creative ways of doing stuff, like giving individuals to work for the first 6 months and then going off working remotely in the next 3 months on any of the hotel locations. So being very creative when it comes to that package aspect. And I think that would really, really help. And I think one little tip I could give is a lot of companies like to just copy the big players. It's the one stop, right? Like, let's see what the big organizations are doing, get that right, and then think of something creative that we can sell uniquely. I think it should be the other way around. Think of what your organization's brand is unique for yourself, use that as a selling point, but also churn that around for the new talent that we are seeing in terms of their work-life balance, in terms of their qualifications, their culture, their values that are important to them. And if you don't have that out-of-box thinking and making that unique, truthful selling point for your own brand, it would be so much more tougher for you to get someone in and retain them. My 2 cents, if that makes sense.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, I guess the employer branding is one buzzword, I would say, that is very important for the recruiting in our situation right now. Well, let's pretend that we have all the employees that we need and that we want to, of course, retain them, be sustainable, resilient with them, and develop them. How do you, Leah, approach that? Like, how do you prepare the workers you have for the future?
Absolutely. It's great because I can sort of give a practical example of what Rida is saying and how we do it or approach it at G Adventures. And so we know people want to be happy at work. We've always known people want to be happy, but now more than ever, we see the importance of that and how people are making decisions based on whether they're happy or not. They've got so many more options to them and less hesitancy to move on from a role, given what the pandemic has taught us. And so we operate on what we call a happiness business model. There are 5 foundational pillars for us. The first one is freedom and flexibility, and that's the autonomy to be trusted to do good work and make good decisions. We know that people need that in their role, and the flexibility piece is even more important now for individuals. And so supporting that the best way you can as an employer, I think, helps build resilience. It helps retention, but it helps people recharge when they need to and do what they need to do in order to be able to do their best work. Being part of something greater than themselves, so engaging beyond their role and connecting to a sense of purpose within the organization and having that aspiration to have a positive impact. And so we've got multiple ways that we do that, but using travel as a force for good is the greatest one, and making sure that people who are a part of our community feel that sense of being part of something that's greater than just themselves. Giving people the ability to grow, and we touched on it a little bit earlier in the panel, just that doesn't necessarily mean a promotion or a career path trajectory that's leading you from one step to the other, but that's really the development of somebody's skills, somebody's interests, somebody's span of accountability across the organization. So multiple ways that people can do that, both professionally and personally within the organization, really helps, again, reinforce that sense of belonging and resilience within our business. And then connection. So we know that people are happy when they're connected to each other, to the community as a whole, to each other across the globe for us, and intentionally setting up the tools and prioritizing that connection within the organization. Technology has done so much for us in that space. We use Slack within our business to stay connected. It's probably the primary tool that we use, but really just having that sense of connection, community, and camaraderie really creates the conditions for happiness and people to do their best works. And then the last one that we include there is belonging. So having a sense of safety and security to be who you are, to show up who you are, to know that you are included, that it is a safe space for you, and that you belong within the G Adventures community, also continues to set the pillars for people to do their best work. So developing supporting programs in each of these areas to create that sense of belonging will build the resilience that you need to sort of make it through anything. I think we've made it through the toughest time there's been in the history of our company, and who knows what's ahead for that, but really continuing to focus on those areas is what we've seen to be successful.
All right. How does that work for you, Mario, with the with retaining employees?
I mean, it's to what Leah said as well, and Rida said, the worst thing you can do is, find people and then let them go again. So I think for us, it's how can we demonstrate, what a rich and rewarding career we can offer in the hospitality, and what long-term attractiveness is here in the markets and the future growth. And I think that's it is about belonging. It is about that teamship. It is about the careers here. And to what Leah said, it's not about growing the ladder all the time. There's a lot of lateral growth opportunities that you can find. But I think it's really, it's having the right benefit package. It needs to be tailored. It needs to be flexible, and it needs to meet the different needs of the people that they can feel connected to the company. And I think that's the biggest opportunity we have is having different models and different options to attract those people and be flexible and agile. And that's the challenge as well, because that requires a lot of rethinking among all of us.
Yeah. So recruiting has become more complex. I guess we can say that. It has become more, we all need to be more flexible. We need to think new models, be more individual with the people we want to recruit, and also think about what we can actually offer the employees that are working for us. So, well, thank you very much. Our time is over, unfortunately, right now. So I thank you all for joining me today. And thanks for giving us an insight on your thoughts of the future of human resources in tourism.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much for having us.
I hand back to the studio.